Since my major is education, what I thought of doing for the final project part 2 was creating a brief textbook on cultural anthropology and archaeology, that are the two subfields of anthropology that I chose to do for my final project. To begin the textbook, I started explaining what is anthropology, what is the concept, what does it study, and what are the types of it, being biological, cultural anthropology, linguistics, and archaeology. Following that, I have what does an anthropologist do, what are the methods used, which is ethnography, what is the importance of the anthropologist. After introducing anthropology and what is its concept, we're going to start looking at the two subfields of anthropology that I chose to do for the final project. First, we have cultural anthropology. We start with what does the concept of culture means for anthropology. Then we have the characteristic of a culture and how do anthropologists study culture. The methods anthropologists use to study culture are first, studying living cultures, second, studying past cultures, and then comparing cultures. The next subject inside culture I chose to talk about was sex and gender. In this section of the textbook, we have what is biological or designated sex. We have gender and identity. What is the discussion with gender and sex? Gender social roles. After looking at sex and gender, we have marriage and family inside culture. Here we have some of the examples of the marriage differences around the world and how does it affect culture for us. Following that, we have religion, which is something that completely affects our culture. Here we have the rules of behavior, which are how people are expected to act inside a religion. We have some of the characteristics of religious norms. The next one and the last concept inside culture is globalization. First, we have a brief explanation of what the concept means, and following that, we have each of the characteristics inside globalization. Here we have a more detailed explanation of which one of the characteristics is. Here we have economic globalization, cultural globalization, the advantages and disadvantages of globalization, its origin, and how it was in the 20th century. Now that cultural anthropology has been covered, we're going to move to the next subfield of anthropology, chosen to be spoken about in this book. This field is going to be archaeology. First, we have what is archaeology. This is a brief explanation of what the concept is. Then we have some of its origins. We have some of the most important archaeologists inside archaeology, and a little bit of how it is today. After the explanation of what is archaeology, what does the concept mean, a little bit of its history, we're going to look at some of the most important events inside archaeology. The first one is the Neolithic Revolution. This revolution is really important because it's what started civilization in the humanity, and this is what these paragraphs are talking about. Here is the origin of the Neolithic Revolution. We have some of the hypotheses that specialists consider being the reason why it happened. We have the nuclear arrest theory. We have the demographic pressure theory. After taking a look at some of the theories of why did the revolution happen, we're going to take a look at some of its characteristics. The first one is climate change. Then we come to sedentary lifestyle and beginning of agriculture, which is something really important inside the revolution. Next one is housing, division of work, animist religion, agriculture, domestication, livestock, selection of domesticated species, tools used, agricultural tools, textile invention, and the new inventions that came up with the revolution. After that, we have civilization as itself. First, we have what does civilization means and how did it happen after the Neolithic Revolution. Here's a really brief explanation of it because most of it is covered inside the Neolithic Revolution with this process of housing, agriculture, tools using in favor of day-to-day life, So here is just a brief explanation of it and some of the most important civilizations that came with the Neolithic Revolution.